panel. And Eric, is this our fourth Power Hour?
Five.
Number five. Boy, I missed one. So fifth Power Hour here that the SEMR board has started these. I think we started last August, and we offer them every couple of months. We try to bring relevant topics of interest to you guys. And today we have people from the NorthstarMLS board. One thing before we get started that I wanted to mention to all of you, if you're not aware, SEMR has, we have the SEMR Giving Campaign. And each of the 5 hubs has picked a charity and is working on raising money for that charity. And SEMR for each hub will match up to $10,000 of funds to go to the appropriate charities. And if you want to learn more about that, you can just go to the SEMR website. Right on the front page, it's the Giving Campaign. You can give to the general fund, which then is divided up between the 5 hubs, or if you like a specific hub or a specific charity, you can give to that specific charity. It's an amazing opportunity, you guys. We have an amazing opportunity to help several nonprofits in our area. Our local Rochester is supporting Hiawatha Homes and Bear Creek Services. So that's where we're at there. We're going to be selling tickets, raffle tickets as well. They'll be coming out fairly soon, and then connect with your individual hubs if you want to get more information about what they're doing. But anyway, let's get started on our panel, because I am pretty excited about today. And I know I say this every time we have a panel, but this is going to be an awesome panel. And I don't know how we're going to top it, but then we always seem to top it. But anyway, we are very happy today to have John Mosey, Michael Bisping, and Brian Russo on our panel to talk about MLS related things and Northstar related things. Without the MLS, you guys, this is our organized way to match clients, buyers, and sellers together, an organized way to receive compensation. Without this, I don't know how we would do business. So very, very important to our everyday businesses. I'm going to introduce John Mosey first. John has a presentation for us, but John is president and CEO of the NorthstarMLS. John has spent more than 40 years working with organized real estate as both a technology vendor and an MLS executive. He began his career in Toronto, Canada with a company that was later acquired by Moore Corporation and merged into the Moore Data Management Services division. He ran units out of Vancouver, British Columbia, and in Pleasanton, California, before returning to Toronto and eventually taking charge of the Canadian operations of the Moore Data in 1993. He was transferred to Minneapolis in 1994 by Moore Data to become the VP Sales for North America. In addition to growing sales and building a profitable online service business, he held the profit and loss responsibility for the MLS book, Tax and Homes magazine units of the company. In 1998, John was asked to take over leadership and direction of Cyber Homes, Moore's flagship real estate website. And in the early 2000s, Moore Data Management was sold to Vista Info, and John left to lead a startup in the early days of Showing Technologies. In 2002, he was recruited to lead the regional MLS of Minnesota, which is now NorthstarMLS. John currently serves on the boards of the MLS Grid, the Broker Public Portal, and industry-controlled board of directors that oversees HomeSnap's delivery of the Broker Public Portal's value proposition. He has been president and CEO of the NorthstarMLS for the past 19 years and has served as a multi-year CMLS director and 2008 president of the association. So as you can see, he comes with a lot of experience. So John, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Well, thank you, Tracy. And I'm sorry for the lengthy bio, but it'll give you some insight into how long I've been at this. When it says I had P&L responsibility that included MLS book production. We haven't done that in a while, albeit my experience running Northstar is that we still have subscribers who wish we were still providing an MLS book solution in addition to everything else we do. So I'm going to switch over to sharing my screen, and I'll just walk through some of the topics that Brian asked me to touch upon today and open it up for any questions if you have any. So let me move over to the screen. Share. And I've already said good morning. So hello again. A couple of years ago, getting close to 3 years ago, this is what the state of Minnesota looked like according to T3, which is a consulting organization, national consulting organization, that was hired by the state association to take a look at how MLS services were delivered across the state of Minnesota and where overlap was impeding the ability of realtors to do business with each other. And as you can see, or I hope you can see, NorthStar was the light purple color, and our footprint extended over most of the state, but we overlapped in virtually every other jurisdiction, including SEMR at the time. But at this time, June 2018, we were deep in discussions with SEMR about which eventually became a merger, and SEMR became a shareholder of NorthstarMLS. But subsequent to that moment when SEMR joined with NorthStar, as you can tell, the state was in kind of a state of dysfunction. And our merger with SEMR essentially started a trend that has changed the landscape in Minnesota so that it looks a little bit more like this today. And the purple footprint of NorthStar has extended over the entire state with a few exceptions. We have holdout organizations in southern Minnesota, Rasm and Mankato, Duluth, the Range, and Detroit Lakes in the western part of the state. Other than that, every other realtor in the state of Minnesota is united in their ability to project their inventory to the buyers represented by agents throughout the state, and for those agents to see your inventory on their local systems. Most of this footprint is served by NorthStar. However, we have a product or a service we call Common Data Platform. And the object of the Common Data Platform was to make it easier for some of these outlying associations to join with us and make their inventory more accessible to NorthStar subscribers and our inventory accessible to their subscribers without them having to become part of NorthStar. And that's been very successful for us, not only in Minnesota, but beyond. And in fact, on the western side of the state in July, Lake Region Association of Realtors, which is headquartered in Fergus Falls, will be joining the Common Data Platform, remaining on their Flex MLS solution and remaining separate from NorthStar. But their subscribers will be able to access our inventory on Flex, and our subscribers will be able to access their inventory in NorthStar using Matrix or Flex or Paragon or Remine, which is also a feature of how the Common Data Platform works, having a front end of choice. So one of the justifications for us having made the overture first with SEMR and with others was that there's an expense associated with being separate, with being divided in terms of how this industry operates. In 2018, we estimated that there were more than 260 members between Southeast Minnesota and NorthStar paying 2 MLS fees. They paid to our side and they paid on your side of SEMR. So what we did is we took a look at that using an estimated $40 a month per subscriber times 2 times 12 months. And then we divided that by 2, because if you were only paying 1 MLS fee, it would cut in half the total number of $40 times 12 times 2 times 260. Long story short, $125,000 a year was being paid unnecessarily by those 260 agents between our two organizations. And that was tip of the iceberg in terms of additional expense and overhead and complexity that entered into the equation in terms of how agents were able to do their business in Minnesota. So we've been together now for 30 months. And during those 30 months, since converting SEMR to the CDP NorthStar, those affected 260 realtors have saved over $312,000 in that period of time. So part of the purpose of this slide is just to illustrate that each time we extend the Common Data Platform into different regions throughout the state, we're actually creating this kind of savings for realtors all over the state. And easily this number, the $312,000 number, has exceeded more than 2 times that amount based on the number of associations that are now participating through Northstar or the CDP. And I must really like this slide because it won't let me move it. This was an illustration of our footprint, but also an illustration of the fact that we are offering more than one MLS front end. In the Northwest Minnesota jurisdiction in Bemidji, which is a CDP client of the Northstar relationship, where they continue to operate separately from us, they're operating on the Flex platform. Most of the state is operating on Matrix, but the Northstar footprint in light blue there provides for any user within our footprint to be able to use Matrix or Paragon or Remind Flow Pro or Flex MLS anywhere in that territory. We also extended the CDP into Iowa, where we're serving 6 MLSs in the state of Iowa, and their footprint is described there in the black, and they operate on the Paragon platform. So the purpose of the CDP has been to solve our own backyard. Minnesota was dysfunctional. We tried to make it more rational and easier for brokers and agents to do business in the state. We wanted to extend our solution, which we have done throughout Iowa and Missouri and Southern Illinois. We wanted to support the industry by making the technology that Northstar has developed available elsewhere without cost to MLSs that have the wherewithal to operate the technology and extend the concept of the CDP into their respective jurisdictions. And I highlight Missouri and Southern Illinois in particular because the regional MLS based in St. Louis is called Marist. And Marist licensed our software for use in their territory because they wanted to repeat the kind of success we had in Minnesota in their geography, which covers most of the state of Missouri and a large chunk of Southern Illinois. That relationship has evolved to the point now where Marist and Northstar are working very closely together in terms of reconciling our technology stack and coordinating contract negotiations with our primary providers because we're negotiating jointly. I just did my back of the envelope calculations last night, but to give you some idea of the value of that relationship is over the next 3-year contract cycle for Marist, they will save $1.1 million over their current expense because they associated with us and jointly negotiated their contract. Our savings are going to be a little bit less at $900,000 because we started from a better place than they did. So this is how the CDP is starting to shape up in terms of where its footprint extends. We are effectively operating contiguously from the Canadian border to the Arkansas border through Minnesota, Western Wisconsin, Iowa, Missouri, and Southern Illinois, and to some extent already into a portion of Arkansas. There's discussions occurring right now with other MLS associations in the Midwest with the object of building out this footprint even larger. So one of the other news items, if you like, is the fact that we're embroiled in a legal complaint brought by a group of plaintiff attorneys against the National Association of Realtors and a number of brokers across the country, claiming that NAR policy harms sellers by requiring an offer of compensation in the MLS. So far, we have not been named as a party to this lawsuit, and which is called Merle. But interestingly, Merle's transaction that precipitated this whole legal morass, for want of a better description, happened in Minneapolis in the Northstar MLS solution. But it is a national lawsuit affecting realtors all over the country and has the potential, if the plaintiffs can make their case, to become a class action antitrust suit affecting realtors in every part of the state. We're obliged under the current circumstances to provide information to the plaintiff attorneys in discovery that will help, they hope will help fortify their arguments. We don't think they have much of a claim, nor does the National Association, but it's a costly endeavor. And what I wanted to show is that we budgeted $260,000 for 2021 to cover our legal expenses in response to the requirements for us to respond to the service of a subpoena for discovery. So far, we're $70,000 out of pocket. One of the things we learned a couple of years back when we were also involved in an antitrust suit, which also involved copyright protection claims by Northstar against a company that was stealing data from our system, was that these suits are enormously expensive. And if we didn't have our size and resources, it would be impossible literally to be able to sustain the cost of defending yourself in these circumstances. So as you can see, $70,000 out of pocket thus far out of a budgeted amount of 260. The meter keeps ticking, and all you can say in these circumstances is ouch again. So also a topic of interest nowadays has to do with the Zillow acquisition of Showing Time, which by the way is not yet complete. And Tom Flaherty on our staff and myself were interviewed by the Federal Trade Commission a week ago as to what they felt or what they asked us would be the effects on Northstar of this acquisition. They've been doing those kinds of what they call non-public investigations around the country, and we were candid, but we also told them what our circumstances were and where we're going moving forward in the short term, which I'll help you with. So having been faced with this announcement, we're faced with choices and decisions. We're under contract with Showing Time through August 2021. Our contract renews automatically year to year. It requires 30 days advance notice to terminate. We've requested a month-to-month extension, and based on my experience in the vendor role for much of my career, I communicated to our board that if I was in the Showing Time seat with the kind of response to the Zillow acquisition announcement, and I had contracts or customers under contract over a period of time, I would not go or accept a month-to-month extension, because it made it easier for them to depart during a period of time when I wanted to regain their trust and confidence in our ability to serve them the way we have in the past. So I have made that request of Showing Time to move to month, but I'm not sure we'll get it. We're also, as I mentioned, involved with Maris, who are under contract with Showing Time through April of 2022. And the Iowa realtors with whom we're related through the CDP have asked us to take the lead in terms of identifying alternatives to Showing Time, as it will affect the 6 MLSs in Iowa that we're helping to support. And just as a matter of interest and concern, is Showing Time is also the source of market stats from InfoSparks, which are used fairly extensively across the Northstar footprint. And our concern is that if we discontinue our relationship with Showing Time, what will we do to replace the InfoSparks product? And again. So other considerations had to do with comparability. There are other solutions out there in the marketplace. Many have just popped up in response to the Zillow announcement. So what we are concerned about is, what are these alternatives functionally on par with Showing Time? If we were to switch off the Showing Time platform, we'd want to be taking you to a place which was equivalent or roughly equivalent in terms of its capabilities and functionality. You didn't want to lose something that was important to you by disregarding or discontinuing a showing time relationship because of the Zillow piece. Then because many of these alternatives are very, very new, we're concerned about their track record and their capacity to perform. Many of them have no track record at all. They've got an idea that is in various stages of development or evolution. Readiness is another factor, as we're having this contract come due at the end of this summer. Would you be available to us at that time in order to supplant the showing time solution? And most, if not many, were not available. Also, it's a cost consideration. What's our tolerance for additional expense? One of the alternatives that was recommended to us to do some research on out of Toronto, as a matter of fact, called Broker Bay, was a remarkably interesting and capable product running at 12 times the cost of showing time. I believe that that price will come down, but not at a pace that would make it palatable for most of our subscribers. And our interest there is what would the tolerance of our customers be to an increase in their monthly MLS fees of a couple of bucks, because Broker Bay was the only option available if we were to make a move off of showing time. There are other options available, several others that are credible but not ready. So we've looked at local showings from Delta Media. We've looked at the SentryKey solution. We've looked at Broker Bay. HomeSnap Showings is coming later this year, and it'll be free as a add-on service to the HomeSnap app that's currently available to Northstar. We've looked at it and had very positive responses from the review teams. So we'll be keeping that option open and available to you come October, November, when it's available to us. Touchbase is a Canadian company that's been around for about 20 years. Last week, Tom Flaherty and myself did a in-depth review of their product and came away quite impressed. But it's also a cost consideration, as it's more than double the cost of our showing time solution right now. And what we'll be addressing is whether or not that additional cost is worth the additional money as it affects you. So what to do, what to do, what to do? Well, nothing or something. And when we say nothing would be to stay with showing time. And the reasons for that is it works. It's priced competitively. In fact, it establishes the benchmark for pricing. We have contractual guarantees regarding the permitted data uses and confidentiality of that data. The market stats relationship remains unchanged. So one of the alternatives is we switch in August or September, and the only viable solutions available to us at that time are local showings by Delta Media, which is credible, Touchbase, which is credible and expensive, Broker Bay, which is very good product. Not 100% sure that it would be available in the time frame we're talking about, but enormously expensive by comparison to what we're used to. And then the update on the viable short-term options is local showings by Delta Media is ready to go. When we first looked at them, they had not gone live in the marketplace, but they are now. I mentioned Broker Bay and their premium price requires an MLS fee increase. And Touchbase is impressive, but much pricier than Showing Time or Delta Media or SentryKey. And SentryKey is not available to us any earlier than later in the year, October, November timeframe. So on I think it was our April board meeting, our board elected to remain with Showing Time for one more year in a worst case scenario. And when I say worst case, it's a question of whether or not we could get from them the month-to-month extension, or our second level request was to make our current contract coterminous with Maris, which would put us into an April timeframe when we'd be again able to go to market and look at alternatives out there. So Showing Time's giving us that consideration, and we'll wait to see what happens. And that's my update for you today, Tracy. And thank you very much. I think you're muted.
I'm off mute now. I had forgot to mention in the beginning, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put those questions in the chat. And we have Eric and Margaret monitoring that, and we can do some questions probably at the end, might make more sense. So we are going to move on to Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping is the Director of Customer Relations for the Northstar MLS. He has the highest level of certification from the Council of Multiple Listing Services. He has been with Northstar MLS for 14 years, and he manages the MLS help desk and the support center. So I'm certain that he is very busy, and the rules and regulations staff. So I'm going to turn it over to Michael at this time.
Morning, thank you. Yeah, I've been with Northstar MLS 14 years, and I thought I'd start my slide with what I think is one of the most exciting things we've seen in a little while with such a tight market. So this is the number of new listings entered into Northstar MLS for the last 3 years, and you'll see the last 2 weeks we've seen some really encouraging additions. So we topped 5,500 new listings in a week for the first time last week. So we're feeling optimistic about what's happening. So I manage 5 people who answer the help desk phones if you email or call the help desk, and they do about 100 to 150 calls a day. We do survey those calls, and they have a 98% satisfaction rate. So we feel really good about the people answering the phones and the service they're able to provide you. And then I manage 2 people who enforce the rules and regulations. And so we are sending over 2,000 a month in most cases correction notices. So this is a look at last quarter, just to give you an idea of what type of violations we're sending out. This is the pie of violations that we have, and you'll see over half of it is really a reminder that your listing's still pending and it's 7 days more than when you said it was going to close. Please update your listing. So that's over half of those. Last quarter was 4,600 notices. The next biggest slice of the pie is incorrect data, which means there's some field on the listing that either we found or somebody reported to us that's wrong. So we sent over 1,200 of those. We do an analysis each quarter of what we sent out in that category, because our ultimate goal is to see if we can catch the problem, maybe even before you hit the save button and add edit. So that's our ultimate goal. For example, we added a new business rule last quarter that the basement can't be both a full basement and a partial basement, because somebody reported it to us, and then we found there were about 40 listings out there that said they had both a full basement and a partial basement. So because we can add that business rule right into add edit, we can stop the problem before it starts, and that's ultimately our goal. Then I'll say the next biggest pie is probably those URL supplement violations, which is either a branded supplement or a tour on the listing. Remarks violations, 114 of those. It's usually some sort of self-promotion, or a lot of people accidentally put their name and phone number in the public remarks, which is not allowed. The photo issues, 202, that's more than we usually see. So we had late photos, or people putting in a photo with their brokerage branding on it, or the sign in the yard. And that was a little higher, probably because we're seeing more listings and people were forgetting to add their photo, especially if it's sold quickly, which is what's happening most of the time now. We had 130 late listings. We had 17 commission remarks, which means somebody put in a sentence, something like, we're going to pay commission on the net sales price, which is something Northstar doesn't allow. So we asked them to take that out. There were 17 of those. And then we had what we would call the serious violations, and there were 14 of those. So the serious violations are going into a house without permission, sharing access to the house with someone else, sharing your access to the MLS, and the new clear cooperation is considered a serious violation, and violating the coming soon rule is considered a serious violation. So we saw 14 of those in the first quarter. I thought I would show you this because this is very interesting to me. This is the number of listings that started in the coming soon status for the last 2 years. So we're in year 3 now of having the coming soon status. And look at how that gray line, which is this year, how much more popular that coming soon status became this year. So last month alone, look, the first 2 years we're averaging around 20% of the listings, 25% of the listings started in coming soon status. Last month, 36% of the listings started in coming soon status. And if I just narrow that down to just single family listings, it's 42%. So that's a huge adoption in a relatively short time for that coming soon status. And then the average days in coming soon, you'll see is lower than the other 2 years. So we're like last month, we were at about an average of 5 days that it starts in coming soon. It might be coming soon on Monday and it goes active on Friday. We see that a lot. So our days that it's spent in that category are much lower. But like any challenging market like we're in now, there are rules issues that come up with that. And I would say this clear cooperation, because it's new and coming soon, because the market is so tight, are what we spend a lot of our time now dealing with and talking about. I'm going to stop there because I wanted to keep it a little shorter. I would imagine there are probably a lot of questions, I would think. So I'll stop there. If you have any rules questions, though, you can let me know.
Okay, we'll jump into Brian and then we'll open up the chat and see if we have any questions there. I know I've written down some, so I'll have a few to throw in there. So I'm going to introduce Brian Russo next, our very own Brian Russo. He became a realtor in 2001 and first was on the SEMR MLS board in 2013. Brian was encouraged to run for the MLS board after repeatedly complaining to SEMR about not offering some sort of a showing solution, such as showing time. In 2015, Brian was voted into the SEMR Executive Committee and was the SEMR I'm sorry, my phone was ringing. In 2015, Brian was voted into the SEMR Executive Committee and was the SEMR MLS president for the Northstar consolidation, which was a huge undertaking, and I know that for a fact. In 2019, Brian became the SEMR representative to sit on the Northstar Board of Directors, and he is currently the Northstar president-elect. So Brian, I will turn it over to you. Brian, we can't hear you. I don't think you're on mute, but I can't hear you right now. Now you're on mute. I don't know what's going on. I can't hear Brian. We heard him earlier. You know what I think we'll do? Do we have any questions in the chat right now? I don't see any questions in the chat, but while Brian's kind of fixing his sound, I do have a question, and maybe Michael, this might be more for you. So can you explain the clear cooperation policy to everyone on the meeting today?
Sure. So at the end of 2019, the National Association of Realtors adopted this clear cooperation policy, which basically said if you're going to advertise a listing to the public, it must be available on the MLS within 1 business day. And that passed with over a 90% yes vote, which I am told is unheard of in MLS policy on the National Association level. And essentially that's the entire policy. It's a 1-sentence policy. The implementation has been a little challenging for MLSs. I'm in sort of a group of people who have to administer rules, and it's been a little bit challenging to figure out where NAR intended the line to be. And I think that line has moved a little bit over the last year. And so it's gotten a little tighter. So my last, I had wrote an article, which will probably be posted next week. And I asked the NAR, Renee and NAR to look at it. And they are applying it much more broadly than perhaps we have been in the past. So that's part of what the announcement will be next week. And NAR's opinion is if the listing is shared outside of your brokerage, it is no longer a private listing and the clear cooperation policy applies. So NAR's position is if another realtor calls you and you decide you want to share that private listing with another brokerage, you've now opened up for a clear cooperation violation and it should be put on the MLS. So their opinion is basically the seller has to decide, do I want my listing to be private, which means only my broker can show people the property, or do I want to go public and make it available to everyone? For me personally, because I've heard a lot of explanation justifying it, the one that makes the most sense to me, and this is the one that Metro MLS in Milwaukee stresses really hard, is that it really addresses problems with redlining or steering, because there were a lot of people in private face groups deciding which agents got to know about an available property and which didn't. So that argument meant a lot to me, especially in the current environment. And I like that. So really it's about telling the seller we can go private where only I can show it and we can communicate it to people without publicly advertising it. or we need to make it available to every potential buyer. And that's, NAR's opinion is that's always, almost always in the best interest of the seller, is to make it available to the entire marketplace, so that it's, so that what real estate really about is cooperation for sale of property. So that's the policy in a nutshell. I think it's a little challenging because it makes people have to rethink how they market and what's private and what's public and what's advertising. And that's why it's been challenging, I think, for MLSs too.
Okay,
Can you,
I know
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yay.
I brought up a clear cooperation question, so we
Yeah.
filled the time with that.
I was gonna add on to Michael there is because I've had these questions from people about the clear cooperation. If I have a seller that does not want the public to really know about their house and have people through it, if I do a withheld from MLS, am I allowed to share with other brokerages about my listing?
NAR's answer is no, right? Yeah, that once you decide to share it with other brokers, you need to make it available to all brokers.
All right, are you ready for me, Tracy? I'm sorry, I don't know what
Nope.
it's on. It said it was
No,
on.
we just backed up a little bit. I filled the time with some clear cooperation clarification. So we knew we'd get you. So you have the floor.
All right. Well, I was looking at my notes today because I keep a notebook with me for all these meetings. And the one that I have today talks about Tracy being in the Minnesota Association leadership back in 2017 when the whole merger started. And Tracy had as much to do with the MLS consolidation as any of us, I believe. So thank you, Tracy, for all your hard work also.
Thank you, Brian.
John had showed a slide showing that we're saving $124,800 a year for our members, our NorthStar members. And I would say, I think that number is even lower. All of the SEMR contracts were coming due right when we did the consolidation, and the contracts weren't going to be the same or cheaper. They definitely were going to be paying more money. So the savings has been a big deal. And one of our fears too, that John talked about, was the Moeller lawsuit, where we've already spent $70,000 as the MLS. SEMR was afraid something like that would come our way, and we did not feel we had any of the resources to protect ourselves or our members if something like that happens. So that was one of our thoughts when we did the merger also. And I'd be curious if we decided to not merge, what that map would look like. My belief is NorthStar would have just leaped us and still went into Iowa, and we'd have been on a little island similar to Mankato, where we would have continued to shrink and become more and more irrelevant until we maybe didn't have an association or whatnot. So I think the consolidation has really been great for us. To have a voice on that NorthStar board has been a big deal too. It's my voice, which I've enjoyed doing it right now, but I really believe it's important for our association. I wanted to talk about a little bit today was the coming soon field, because I know Margaret and Eric get bombarded with complaints on this more than probably anything else combined. And I'm a big proponent of the coming soon field. I like that it continues to grow month after month, year after year. I believe that by doing it in the coming soon, we're protecting everybody. The sellers having more eyes on their home, to more buyers, because they don't have to get in it on Monday. It's not a race. They can get into it on Thursday when it goes live, and they're able to schedule their appointments for Thursday. So the seller has an idea what their weekend's going to look like, or what the first few days of when they list is going to look like, and know kind of what the activity is. Buyers are able to schedule their lunch schedules or work schedules around the initial showing. And that helps, because if a house comes on today, I might have a buyer that's out of town and they're not able to come back to look at it. They might have a busy day at work today and tomorrow where they cannot get away. And when they can get away, it's already booked, so we can't get into the house. So it definitely is helping buyers not have to race to get inside it. It also helps the listing agent, I think, be able to figure out maybe where the offers are going to be at and assist the seller in accepting one, or how they should handle the multiple offers. So I think it's been a great thing. I know there's worry that there's some showings going on without it actually being active, which is a large MLS violation. So we need to kind of police that. And we recently changed that rule where both the listing agent and the buyer's agent are both suspect to the fine. We didn't think it was fair for just the listing agent to be the one that was going to share that burden, because the buyer agent shouldn't be requesting, shouldn't be trying to get in the house. We have a lot of complaints about it. But before coming soon, we had a lot of complaints about pocket listings, and we were seeing that a lot, where it was just going on market as active pending. Nobody knew about it. Might have been a friend or a neighbor that bought it legit, but there's a lot of times that it was a withheld from MLS that wasn't being reported, and the office was selling it, breaking the clear cooperation rules. John had talked about showing time too, and I know that's a big fear. SEMR will affect us definitely too, besides our showing solution, is every month we've got great stats that are emailed to all of our members and they're on the website for everybody to look at. And those stats are coming from InfoSparks, which is a product of Showing Time Solutions. So I know that SEMR is looking at a possible solution if this does go away. And I know Northstar is too. So hopefully we'll continue to have something like that for our members. One thing I've heard also with the coming soons is we don't always have to have them come on a Friday. You're allowed to have them coming soon go active on a Monday or a Tuesday. I find a lot of them do Thursdays now, but just a suggestion. Our market seems to really get bombarded with new listings on Fridays, and then the weekend is crazy. Personally, I know a lot of realtors that would prefer not to work real hard on the weekend. So if we did these on Monday or Tuesday, maybe we could have that thing wrapped up before the weekend. So just a thought. I don't know if I have a whole lot else. John, I thought you did a great job with the mapping. I'm excited to see where we continue to spread and our relationship with Maris. He had talked about the CDP, which is basically on the agent side that you notice is probably mostly the add edit function and how it goes into the CDP. The add edit function is a Northstar product, and Maris is assisted in some of the financial strain that put on Northstar to develop. But it is remarkable that our MLS team can create something like this, something that seemed, we didn't have technology people in place to design products like that. And then for us to do open source where it's allowed for other MLSs and other real estate industries to use our products like that is really helping growing our industry. And being realtors, we're supposed to share and help each other out and do better. And if we can help somebody create technology to make our jobs easier, I think that's fantastic. In my intro, I do have to say I did complain quite a bit about the way we used to show properties. For you new agents out there, you'd probably just die right now with this crazy market of trying to call the seller directly to set up a time to show their property. We didn't have text messaging back then, or it wasn't popular. Not everybody had email addresses, and we were calling these people directly and finding out that they're going through a divorce or they hadn't had any showings for a few weeks. And I complained nonstop to Margaret. I would say probably once a month, maybe twice a month. And Margaret was the one that definitely twisted my arm to run for the MLS board. So I thank her for that because it's been an experience. I really thought I was going to do a 2-year term. I had no plans on getting this involved or doing more than my 2 years, but I've enjoyed it. It's been great. Constantly looking for new people. So if anybody else would like to get on a committee or help out, that's very much appreciated. So I'll just sit back and ask for questions. Those two are the experts, and I was just kind of tagging along today.
No, you did a great job. This has been very helpful. Can we talk a little bit about the Agent Advisory Council? Who would like to take that on? And what is the Agent Advisory Council?
Well, I can give you a start on that, and Mike can chip in if he wants. But for more than the time I've been at Northstar, for more than 20 years, we've had an agent advisory committee made up of appointees from our shareholders and broker board members who are selected based on market share, who appoint representatives from their organizations, working agents, to help us understand what we could be doing better, help us understand when new products are brought to our attention as to whether or not they make any sense, they would make a difference in your lives, whether we should spend time, effort, money on some of these. Mike will reference the AAC for rule changes in terms of how they affect people. Sometimes we get recommendations that we should do this or that or whatever. And we're not practicing realtors. We're not on the street. We don't know how things are going to impact on you, on your day-to-day life. So the AAC has been an invaluable resource for us, as to a place we can turn and say, does this make any sense? And these meetings are really, I was going to call it exciting, but there's really robust discussion at these meetings where different points of view are expressed. Generally speaking, I'd have to say that we reach consensus. There'll be difference of opinion, you'd expect that, but the guidance we received from that group has been just incredible.
And locally, we have 2 representatives on that agent advisory committee. Carl Rogers and Darcy Erke are the 2 representatives. And they're the ones that we really, when I get a complaint or suggestion, I will suggest that they typically talk to those two because they bring it to the initial part of the agent advisory and it goes up from there. So they've been great. They've been a great resource. I talk to both of them fairly regularly.
I actually have a question for you. So when I have a client set up to receive automatic emails, so they have a portal, are my clients, are they supposed to have access to what's in supplements, which would typically be the disclosures, or if it's a townhome, perhaps all the bylaws, rules, and regs are in there? Is that something that, how is that handled right now?
If the listing marked them as public supplements, then your client should have access to them in the customer portal. If they're marked as agent only, they won't.
Okay, so it's how we're inputting things.
Correct.
Okay. And is there a reason we have both choices? Like, what is the reason to have agent or public?
It went back to not wanting brokers not wanting other brokers' branding and contact information being sent to their clients. So the rule is if there's any branding or contact information on the supplement, you have to mark it agent only. So if Edina Realty put it on their form and then it has the agent's phone number at the bottom, then it has to be agent only, so that the buyer's agent can put context around what they're looking at or decide how to share it with them.
So if disclosures have the company logo in the top corner, is that
Correct. It should be agent only then.
Then it's agent only. So the disclosures, because they have the company logo.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
Michael, a question on that too, follow up. And I know the answer, but let's say I had a septic that's failing. So I have a septic estimate and it's got the septic contractor's logo. Can that be public or is that agent only?
It's public unless it has the contact information. So if it puts the phone number or the address or any sort of personal information like that, we would ask that it be agent only.
Okay.
One of the bigger risks early on was the potential for somebody being redirected from the MLS to a separate site through a URL link that would be embedded in the supplements. So the concern, as it was expressed early on, is brokers didn't want people leaving the MLS site or that relationship through the portal that they have with their client and being redirected somewhere else, which then could lead to anywhere else. So it was the goal was to keep it contained.
Gotcha. Okay. No, that was very helpful. I just never knew what the reasoning was, or if there was a way to have those be part of something the public could see. So that was very helpful to me. One last thing I kind of want to talk to you all about is, are there any future enhancements that you're planning that you can share with us?
Well, we actually have an upgrade to Matrix that's on tap, which interestingly enough includes a major upgrade to the public portal component of Matrix. They have a product called One Home. I believe is it September that it will become available, Mike? One Home?
Yes. Yeah.
And, our agent advisory committee and our board have all previewed it, and I think there's a lot of excitement around the improvements that are coming in that feature.
Nice. So that's enhancements to the public portal.
Yes.
Okay.
The customer portal.
The customer portal.
Yeah.
Any other enhancements that are coming down the road, or anything from the Agent Advisory Council that you're considering that we should know about?
One of the challenges that we're facing right now is that we are just totally up to our eyeballs in development projects that are better described as plumbing. You know, it's behind the scenes. It's the things that make sure that everything that we do works when you need it to work. We're rewriting our database. It was in need of rewrite. It just become tired after many years of performance, but an inability to keep up to the changing needs. Our development team describes it as we're rebuilding a house from the foundation up while we're still living in it. And that adds an incredible amount of complexity. There's upgrades occurring relative to the add edit function. We're doing the onboarding of Maris right now, which is and Lake Region Association, all of which are all of these are background activities, but our principal function, if we were to describe it, is to make sure that the lights go on when you need them on. And then to use that metaphor is that when you sign on to MLS, it's there and it's performing at a high level. And after that, everything is kind of icing on the cake. So we spend an awful lot of our time and resources on making sure that the lights go on when you expect them to go on.
Perfect. I would like to open it up. We've got, we're kind of down to our few final minutes here. Does anybody have any questions? I don't see anything in the chat box yet, but we have an incredible panel here today. And if there's something you want to know or questions you have, or how does something work, boy, now is the time. We're extremely fortunate to have this panel because they're busy, take an hour out of their day to provide some information to show us here at SEMR, and we're incredibly thankful that you were able to do that for us. So I don't really see much in the chat. Eric, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, these guys did a great job of covering it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we were kind of expecting out of this. I'm gonna just circle back, you guys, because back to the Giving campaign, and I mentioned what Rochester's charities were, but I do want to mention the other hubs. So Albert Lee is using, they're raising money for their Main Street program and the Salvation Army Food Shelf. Austin is working on a more downtown robust farmers market. Owatonna Park and Rec, they're working with Eric's got that up now. Owatonna is working with the Park and Rec Department and transitional housing in Steele County. Winona is working with Habitat for Humanity and the Winona ORC. So if I've missed anything and anybody's on the group here, please jump in and help us. But this is the login page for the SEMR website. If you click on the more info, good job, Eric. We didn't even practice this, you guys. There are the hubs. If you click on there, it tells what each hub is doing. And then there's a donate here button. You can give to each hub individually, or you can give to SEMR, the general fund. And again, it will be divided up between the hubs. Eric, if you go back to the main page, what was the total? Do we have a total?
We're up to $17,660. Our goal is 10,000 per hub for a total of 50,000 with a 50,000 match from SEMR.
Yeah, this is and this For Giving website was brought to us between the charities that Rochester is working with. So when you give money to this site, there's no fees that go to the website for maintenance. When you give to this, the entire amount you give goes right to the charity that you've selected. And so that's pretty amazing. We've been working on this for a few months. Heather from the State Association, I know she helped us kind of get this going. This is something we're hoping to do every year. And we appreciate Heather's input on that because we sometimes didn't know, like, what do we do? And there was Heather telling us, giving us some good direction. So so we get some kudos there. I have 9:55. If you guys have any further questions, again, we've got the experts here. Time to ask the experts. Otherwise, that tells me that everybody loves what we've got going on and no complaints, no questions. That's awesome.
They're a lot quieter now than they were in 2018.
Yeah, I remember that, Brian. I do remember that.
And if nothing else, you guys all just found 4 extra minutes in your day.
Yes, because we can let you go. If anybody here, put in the chat box before you jump off. If there's, we try to do these every 2 to 3 months, I guess. So if somebody has a topic that they want us to bring forward, throw it in the chat. Reach out to SEMR. Reach out to me if you have any topics you want us to cover. And, we'll certainly do that. We just sort of look at what's going on in the market and try to bring something relevant to you. So we found them to be very successful, and we appreciate your time today. We certainly appreciate John, Michael, and Brian. We know you're busy, and we certainly appreciate you taking time out to to attend our panel today. And again, very, very informative. So if I don't see anything else in the chat, I think we will sign off. Thank you very much. Have a productive day.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.